What's up everyone? It's Nick here with the BuzzLux YouTube channel, and today I'm going to show you how to install Linux onto a computer. So, in order to do this, I found the best way is to create a live CD. It's called. Now, what a live CD is, it's pretty much the Linux operating system you want to use. Only it's installed on a USB flash drive. The flash drive method's the easiest way to do it, I think. So this is how you do it. We're actually just going to install the Linux OS pretty much onto this flash drive. And once it's installed on the flash drive, we can then go to the computer we want to install Linux on, boot to that flash drive, and then install the OS onto the hard drive of that computer from there. So, in order to do this, we're going to need a functioning computer and a USB flash drive that's about 2 or more gigs. So, once you have those two things, you're going to want to open a web browser and go to, in this instance, we're going to use Linux Mint as an example. I think it's a pretty popular Linux distribution, and it's the one I'm going to be using for this project. And if you're new to the channel, this is actually part of my Linux gaming computer experiment build thing I'm doing. I'm kind of just building a really inexpensive gaming computer that runs on Linux, and I'm doing different tests of how games run on Linux, and I'm doing videos on different various steps and problems I come across and fixes and whatnot. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe and stay tuned to my channel. But anyways, this is the distribution I'm going to be using. You can pick your own distribution and just go to their website and download the ISO file from them. But in this case, I'm going to be using Linux Mint Cinnamon Edition right here. So if we just click on that, it's going to bring up the download page. We're going to scroll down here, and I have a 64-bit processor and 4 gigs of RAM. So I'm gonna use one of these HTTP mirrors for 64-bit DVD ISO. And we're going to scroll down. I'm in the US, so I'm going to pick one of these and download from there. Now I already have it downloaded, so I'm not going to do it again. But you can go ahead and click one of these to download the ISO from. Next, we're going to go to, you're going to Google this. It's probably the easiest way. You're going to Google Universal USB Installer. And the first link should be this Pendrive Linux website, where you can install or download this from. So it's called Universal USB Installer. We're going to scroll down to this download link right here. This is the download link. We're going to download this, and this is just the tool that lets us install Linux onto the flash drive. So once we do that, we're going to go to our File Explorer or My Computer and go to our Downloads folder. And there we should see both our files that we just downloaded. So once we do this, we're going to open up Universal USB Installer. We're going to click I agree. We're going to select the distribution we want to use. So in this case, it's going to be Linux Mint right here. Then it's going to ask us where the ISO file is that we want to install on the flash drive. So here it automatically went to the downloads, but you might have to manually select downloads and then click the ISO file. And then we're going to click open. Next, we're going to select what flash drive we want to install this on. So here we have our U drive, and that's our only external drive we have on the computer. So I know that's it, and I know it's a 7 gig drive, or 8 gig drive. So I know that's it. We're going to click Format. So if there's anything on this flash drive that you want to keep, make sure to save it off of the flash drive, like onto the computer you're doing this on, before you do this, because we're going to delete everything on that flash drive in order to install this ISO file onto there. So something to keep in mind. And it's always good to double check that you are imaging the correct flash drive here. So make sure to double check. It's always good to do that. And then you're going to click Create, and then continue. There's going to be another pop-up that says continue. You're going to click or accept, continue, something along those lines. And then in about 10 minutes, it's going to finish installing to the flash drive. Now, once it's installed on the flash drive, what we can do is we can eject it from the computer that we want to use it on. Be safe here. We'll eject it from the computer. Okay, you can pull it out of this computer, and we'll plug that flash drive into the computer that we want to install Linux on. So we plug that flash drive into the computer. Go over to the computer that we're installing Linux on. Now, on this computer, when we turn it on here, it's different for different manufacturers' motherboards, but most of the time it's either F12 or F11. And when you press those, it's going to bring up a boot options, the different storage devices that you want to boot from. So we're going to want to do that. If this is a fresh hard drive with nothing on it, like if this is a new computer build, you're doing something like I'm doing, then you won't have to do that. It should just automatically find your USB drive, because it's really the only thing to boot to. But if you're installing Linux like over top of another operating system, like you have a crashed OS or something, and you just want to get rid of everything and start fresh, then you might have to do it this way and actually select it to boot from the flash drive rather than booting from that hard drive. So again, most motherboards you can just press F11, spam it during boot up, and it will bring you that option list. So we'll do that for this first demonstration here, and then I'll show you how to do it the other way later on. So again, for this motherboard, it's F11. So we're just gonna keep pressing F11 while it boots up. Just keep spamming that. And there we go. That's going to bring up our select boot device option here. And we're just going to select right here UEFI SanDisk Cruiser Fit. That's the actual device we want to boot to. So we'll just select that, and it's going to bring us into the grub here. Okay. So most motherboards, that will work just pressing F11 or F12 on boot up, and then you can just manually select which boot device you want to boot to. But at the end of the video, I'll go into the other way to do it. If you have to go into the BIOS to select which device to boot to, I will show you how to do that at the end of the video. But here we're just going to select this top selection here where it says Start Linux Mint 17.1 64-bit. And the one underneath it's compatibility mode. We don't want to do that one. We want to do the top one, which is just Start Linux Mint. So we're going to click Enter. And then this is going to boot the OS. It's pretty much going to load it into the system memory, so like your RAM. And allow you to use the OS without actually installing it to the hard drive of the computer. So this is called a live boot or a live CD of Linux. A lot of people use this kind of a method for diagnostic purposes of computers, where you pretty much have your OS here on the flash drive, and you can just use the hardware on the computer without actually affecting how the computer runs or anything. You know, once you take your flash drive out, it will boot into the hard drive just like it normally would. So here you can kind of test out different distributions this way if you want to look at different distributions and see how they work and everything. But in this demonstration, we're actually going to install it. So most distributions will have a little shortcut on the desktop that says like Install Linux or something along those lines, and if it doesn't, you should be able to just search like install or something in their search box and be able to find a tool to install Linux onto a hard drive from. But for this example, it's just right on the desktop here, and then it'll just bring up your install options here. So we're going to click English as our language, Click continue. And then it wants you to connect to Wi-Fi. So you can enter in Wi-Fi here, put your password in and everything. Click continue. And then it's going to just make sure, confirm you have enough disk space and everything to install this on. We're going to click continue. And then if this is a fresh install with nothing on the hard drive, it will pretty much just say install Linux Mint as the first option. But since I already have an OS installed on here, it gives me the option to either install Linux Mint alongside another operating system, or erase the operating system and install Linux Mint. So if it's like a crashed computer with Windows XP or something and you want to just erase everything, you're going to select this, erase disk, and install Linux Mint. Now you could do this option, but I would do a little bit more research on dual booting a computer. If you have like Windows on the computer as well and you want to install Mint alongside of it, I'd do a little bit more research into partitioning hard drives and that kind of stuff, so you know what you're getting into. So because that would be a pain to have to reinstall Windows for some reason if something gets corrupt. So for this demonstration, I wouldn't install alongside another operating system. I'd do some more research before doing dual booting and all that kind of stuff. But for this demonstration, just if it's a fresh hard drive, it will just say install Linux Mint. And then if it has an OS you want to get rid of, you can just click erase disk. And there's also other options to like create your own partitions and everything down here if you want to do that. But just doing it these ways, these two ways, will create the partitions for you automatically. And then you can click install. It'll ask you to create a computer name and your name, and then a password. You can make a password for it. And then you pretty much just click next through the whole for the rest of the steps there, just asking various things like time zone and stuff. I'm not going to do it now because I already have it installed. And then you just wait for it to install and it'll have you reboot. And then once you reboot, it should just boot right into your operating system. You can remove your flash drive once it reboots. And it should just boot right into your operating system. If it reboots and it goes back to this where it shows install here, just shut it down, pull out that flash drive, and then turn it back on, and it should boot to the hard drive then. So yeah, you'll get a splash screen here at the top, or when you first log in. That's kind of like a welcome screen, and it gives you like a couple of shortcuts to different things they want you to like. They think you might want to see about Linux Mint. So that's a good sign to tell you that you are running off the hard drive and not the flash drive. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to shut this down and go into the BIOS and show other ways besides just pressing F11 to F11 or F12 to select the boot device, because some instances it might not work using like F11 or F12 to select boot options. You might actually have to go into the BIOS and do that manually. So I'll show you how to do that here. So this is a click BIOS. You might have an older looking BIOS that's more, gray and left and right options where you have to use your arrow keys and stuff to maneuver. But the basic naming of the settings you want to look for is the same. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go into settings, and then we're going to look for a category called boot. So boot settings. We're going to click enter on the boot settings, and then it'll have a category called fix boot order properties or something along those lines, and it'll have a list of your different devices that you can boot into. Now what this is it shows you it's the order in which your computer will boot to a storage medium. So whatever's boot option 1, your computer is going to boot to that device over boot option number 2, and so on and so on and so on. So it's just the order in which your computer will boot to drives and such. So if for whatever reason the F11 and F12 options for selecting which boot device you want to boot to are not working, what we can do is here we'll go into the BIOS, we'll go to these settings, and you want to change your first couple options. In some instances, it will read the hard or the flash drive as a UEFI USB hard disk or a USB hard disk, and it could read it as a UEFI USB key or USB key, and then give like the name of the drive. In this instance, in my case, it reads it as a USB key. So you want to put those as the first boot option, and then after those you can put your hard drive and whatnot. So once you do this, you can press F10, and then it will give you an option. I currently can't do that. You can either press F10, and then it will give you the option save configuration and reset. So you can do it this way, or if that's not working for whatever reason, you can go back and click settings, and then if you scroll all the way to the right in most BIOSes, there should be like a save and exit category, and then you can just save changes and reboot. And by setting it this way, it will automatically take priority of that USB drive. So it'll automatically boot into a USB storage device. If it has like a bootable medium on it, it will automatically boot to that over whatever's on your hard drive. So that's what those settings we changed will do. And once you pull out the flash drive that has that boot that OS on it, it will just boot to your hard drive automatically. So we're just gonna unplug the USB drive that has the OS installed, and then we're gonna we didn't change anything, so we'll save anyway. We'll save and reboot, and then it just asks us to confirm here. And now it should just boot right in to the hard drive. In some instances, it won't find the hard drive right away when you go into the BIOS right after. But it should just find the hard drive right away, which it is. And it will boot into whatever is installed on the hard drive, as long as you installed Linux onto the hard drive, or your OS on the hard drive. So yeah, kind of a long video. Hopefully I explained myself clearly for you, and you understand how to install Linux this way. So please stay tuned for more of my videos. I'm going to have more Linux related videos on setup and how to install NVIDIA drivers and stuff like that, as well as gaming benchmarks. And if you notice right here, World of Warcraft. I'm also going to do a video on how to install World of Warcraft on this computer and how it runs on such a low budget computer running Linux. So thank you for watching. This is Nick with the BuzzLux YouTube channel.